The letter arrived on the worst day of Emma's life. The day she decided to give up. She sat on the cracked linoleum floor of her studio apartment, back against the peeling wall, staring at the eviction notice that had been taped to her door that morning. 3 months behind on rent. No job, no family to call. The city stretched outside her grimy window, millions of people living their lives, and not one of them knew her name or would care if she disappeared. She'd cried until there were no tears left, until her chest ached with the hollow emptiness of it all, and now she just sat there numb, wondering why she kept fighting when the world kept pushing back harder. That's when she saw it, a pale blue envelope someone had slipped under her door. No stamp, no return address, just her name written in careful looping handwriting. Emma. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper and 5 crisp $100 bills. The money alone made her gasp. It was enough to buy groceries, to keep the lights on for another month, maybe even to convince her landlord to give her one more chance. But it was the words on the paper that broke something open inside her chest. Dear Emma, I know you don't know me, but I know what it feels like to be where you are right now. Someone helped me once when I had nothing, and they told me that when I could, I should pass it forward. You're stronger than you know. This isn't charity. It's a loan from the universe. One day when you're back on your feet, find someone who needs this like you do right now and give them the same chance. You're not alone. You never were. Someone who believes in you. Emma read it 3 times, then 4, her vision blurring with fresh tears. But these were different tears, not the bitter. Angry tears of defeat, but something else. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. She didn't know who'd sent it. She'd lived in this building for 8 months and barely spoken to anyone beyond awkward elevator small talk. Her neighbors were mostly young, professionals who breezed past with their expensive coffee and wireless earbuds, too absorbed in their own worlds to notice a struggling waitress who'd lost her job when the diner closed down. Could it have been the elderly woman in 4B who sometimes smiled at her? The tired-looking single dad in 3A juggling 2 kids and a briefcase? It didn't matter. What mattered was that someone had seen her, really seen her, and had chosen to help. Emma used the money carefully. She paid part of her rent and negotiated with her landlord for more time. She bought interview clothes from the thrift store and printed resumes at the library. She applied to 30 jobs in 3 days, pounding the pavement until her feet blistered, driven by a new determination she couldn't quite explain. The letter had awakened something in her, a stubborn refusal to let the person who'd believed in her down. 2 weeks later, she got a job at a coffee shop in the financial district. The pay wasn't great, but it was steady. She picked up extra shifts, saved every penny, slowly climbed out of the hole that had almost swallowed her whole. And every night she reread that letter, those words becoming a lifeline she clung to. You're stronger than you know. Pass it forward. 6 months passed. Emma wasn't rich, far from it, but she was stable. She'd paid her rent on time. Even managed to buy a used laptop so she could take online classes at night. She'd made friends with her coworkers, rediscovered what it felt like to laugh until her stomach hurt, to wake up in the morning without that crushing weight of despair pressing down on her chest. One October evening, she was walking home from her shift when she noticed the woman. She was sitting on the church steps 3 blocks from Emma's apartment, hunched against the autumn chill in a thin jacket, a garbage bag of belongings beside her. Emma had walked past homeless people 1,000 times in this city. You had to. There were too many. And stopping for everyone would break. But something about this woman made her pause. Maybe it was the way she held her head in her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Maybe it was the hospital bracelet still on her wrist. Or maybe it was simply that Emma recognized that specific kind of desperation. The flavor of it, the weight. She knew what it looked like when someone was deciding whether to keep going. Emma's hand went to her purse. She'd just gotten paid, had been planning to use the money to buy winter boots before the snow came. She thought about the letter, about the stranger who'd saved her life without ever revealing their face, about the promise she'd made to herself. One day when you're back on your feet, find someone who needs this like you do right now. She sat down on the steps beside the woman, who looked up, startled and defensive, eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. Up close, Emma could see she was younger than she'd first appeared, maybe late 20s, with hollow cheeks and that brittle, fragile look of someone who hadn't eaten properly in weeks. "Hey," Emma said softly. "I'm Emma. I don't want to bother you, but are you okay?" The woman's face crumpled. "No," she whispered. "No, I'm really not." Her name was Sarah. She'd been living in her car until it got repossessed last week. She'd lost her teaching job due to budget cuts, then her apartment, then everything else in a domino effect of bad luck and worse timing. She'd tried staying at the shelter, but someone had stolen her phone and ID while she slept. She had a job interview tomorrow, a real one, at a charter school across town, but no way to get there. No clean clothes to wear, nowhere to shower. She was 27 years old and she'd lost hope. Emma listened to it all, her heart breaking and healing simultaneously. Then she did something that surprised them both. "Come with me," she said. She brought Sarah back to her apartment, the same cramped studio that had once been her rock bottom, and let her use the shower. She made spaghetti while Sarah washed, then gave her clean clothes and helped her iron a blouse for the interview. They talked late into the night, sharing stories, sharing pain, sharing the strange, fragile hope that comes from being seen by another human being who understands. Before Sarah left the next morning, Emma pressed an envelope into her hands. Inside was $400, nearly everything Emma had saved from her last 3 paychecks, and a letter. Sarah tried to refuse, tears streaming down her face, but Emma insisted. "It's not charity," Emma said, echoing words she'd once received. "It's a loan from the universe. When you're back on your feet, pass it forward. Find someone who needs this like you do right now. Promise me," Sarah promised. 3 months later, Emma got a card in the mail. Sarah had gotten the job. She had an apartment now. She was going to be okay. And she'd found someone to pass it forward to, a veteran living in his truck who reminded her of her late father. That's when Emma understood what the original stranger had known all along. That kindness wasn't a transaction, but a ripple. That saving one person could save 10, could save 100, could change the geometry of the world in ways you'd never see but could always trust were happening. She never found out who sent her that first letter. But over the next year, she heard whispers, a story about a line cook who'd helped a homeless teenager, who'd been helped by a nurse, who'd been helped by an accountant, who'd been helped by someone else. Different people, different stories, but always the same letter. Always the same promise, pass it forward. Emma kept the original letter in a frame above her desk. On hard days, she read it and remembered that she'd been saved not by money, but by belief. Someone stubborn, irrational belief that she mattered, that she deserved another chance. And now she carried that belief forward, looking for the people others walked past, the ones sitting on church steps or crumpled on apartment floors, deciding whether to keep going. She'd learned the secret that changes everything, that we're never as alone as we think we are, that somewhere in the vast indifference of the world, there are people who see us, who care, who extend their hands across the darkness, and that the most powerful thing any of us can do is become that person for someone else to be the reason. Someone decides to stay, to fight, to believe that tomorrow might be different, because it only takes one person to save a life, and sometimes that person is you.